Today is the day where the Tea on Wellness podcast is officially live.
Woo!
Oh my God. I'm so excited, guys. I'm excited to have you ladies here. I'm excited to be here. And I want to just introduce what the Tea on Wellness really is about. And the Tea on Wellness brand podcast, both, you name it, is a space where we really break down health and wellness in a way that's real, accessible, and made for creatives and professionals alike. I'm your host, Samantha DeSenord, and this podcast will be bridging the gap between holistic health and everyday life. So, we're going to give you the knowledge today, the tools, resources, the community that you need to thrive. And so grab your tea, settle in, and let's get into it.
Yes. Awesome.
All right. So, firstly, since it's my first podcast, I guess you guys start where, who am I? I have some amazing guests here today, too. So, we're going to have to highlight them, but I'm going to go ahead and start with introducing myself. Once again, my name is Samantha DeSenord. I am a wellness program coordinator in higher education, public health advocate, mentor, sister, friend, daughter, um, and just an overall wellness curator. Um, my story starts from little old Wilmington, Delaware. That's where I'm from. A lot of people be like, "Where's that?"
No.
No, they be like, "Delaware." Yeah, so that's where I am from. I've been in DC for the last year and a half, and my education spans from exercise science to public health. I got my bachelor's in exercise science in 2017 from Delaware State University. Um, Shout out to y'all, shout out to my HBCU, Um, But that's where my journey in wellness really catapulted. That things change. Life. Who knows who exactly they want to be at 18? We be thinking that we're gonna know. But yeah, at 18 I thought I was gonna be a doctor of physical therapy right now. Um and when that changed because I was like, who the hell paying $100,000 to go to physical therapy school? Um yeah, like real, I know because MPH student right here. And so the student loans and stuff, how that get. Um, but when I figured that I wasn't going to be a physical therapist, I came out of school with the exercise science degree. Like, what's next? It's a stepping stone degree. It's not really a professional degree. I don't really have like a license for me to go straight into work like that. So that's when my background kind of went into healthcare. I worked in primary care for a few years. I was working at Planned Parenthood, which was like my first uh, eye into public health and what that really looks like and working with community. Um, and so, and providing resources for community. And so I saw a lot at Planned Parenthood. It was real. And so working there, went to primary care, and so that's where I learned a lot of my clinical skills, medical assisting, and things like that. And I was like, I don't really like working with patients. I was like, I like the idea of being in the community, and I like the idea of providing resources, and um, that's when I went and worked at a place. I can't even remember the name of the place right now, but we did biometric screenings in the community and underserved communities, and
Yeah.
we did like glucose screening and pulmonary function.
From that, how did you get here?
How did I get here? Yeah, I say a lot to say. I was like, I don't like working with patients. I love the aspect of being in community, building community. I started having events when I was living in Delaware that was specific to um, curating a creative community and enhancing the well being of my community. And after I started realizing that you can have a job doing that, I was like, that's me. That's me. And landed a job in higher education, literally doing everything that I just explained. Um, and so that's a little about me. And I want to introduce my guest today, my wonderful, beautiful guest. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having us, and congratulations on your first episode. My name is Taylor Blam. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a Master's of Public Health student at George Washington University. Before this, I got my holistic health and nutrition coaching certification from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Um, my bachelor's background is more like policy focused. Um, I have picked health as my niche because it is my core purpose and dream to basically contribute to creating a world that is built around our wombs and to help us shift from very toxic, patriarchal, capitalist structures into more of a matriarchal timeline in which we build spaces around womb and the wisdom that comes from it. And I'm really passionate about cyclical living, which we'll talk about a little bit today. But other than that, all you need to know about me is that I've created a life where every single part of my world gets to focus on womb wellness and women's health, and that's the life I want to live in. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, she's not lying when she says her whole life is like surrounded by this. She was like, yeah, I'm in my follicular phase today. Don't talk to me or something like that. And I might be saying the wrong phase right now. Like, that's why we're here to learn about exactly what phases that we're going to refer to. But literally, the only person that I know that does that, and um, I think that that's so cool, and it's going to benefit so many women going forward. So yeah,
Yeah.
and we have lovely guests.
Hi everyone, I am Empress Zelataj, and I'm a medicine woman. I am an herbalist, I'm an ecologist, I am a student of the plants and of the earth. I have my background, my herbalism background, under the vitalist herbalist lineage, so that brings in how each of the herbs and all of the plants are connected to different organ systems in our bodies, and how symptoms show up as a result of imbalances within the organ systems. And further, my background, I'm an ecologist, so I have this Western science background, bachelor's in ecology, master's in environmental science, and I have a master's in theology as well, and I'm an ordained interfaith minister. And then on the other side, bridging this like Western and my ancestral indigenous teachings and the wisdom of the earth, I am on the shamanic path of ancient alchemy. And so I have a deep relationship with the earth and with my indigenous ancestors to connect with the ancestral wisdom of how to work with the plants, how to work in balance with the environment, and as within, so without, bringing balance into our bodies through our connection with the earth and the knowledge of all of our ancestors of working with the earth in a reciprocal and respectful way in order to bring deeper harmony and balance to our internal systems. And so I'm the founder of Ministry of Neturu Apothecary, and Taylor and I have partnered to bring, the teas that we'll be talking about, and yeah, my work is rooted in a deep reverence and communion and conversation with the plants and with the earth. And so all of the work in the apothecary brings that same mindfulness. We work from a body, mind, spirit perspective. We don't work on symptoms. We get to really the root cause of different imbalances that we might face. So I'm really excited to be here and talk so much more about all of this.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Wow. Amazing. Wow.
Isn't she magical?
I know.
Literally magical.
This is why I'm just like, I feel so in alignment right now with just the people that's in this room. Um, and just so grateful, just operating in gratitude to share space with you guys. And Zella mentioned Womb Wellness Collection.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the only tea that's my favorite. Okay. Because it's amazing. And so I love for you to tell us about what Womb Wellness Collection is.
Yeah.
And how did it come about?
Yeah. I can start and then you
Yeah.
finish.
Sounds great.
So for me, it actually started from my own personal journey with hormonal imbalance. I was on pretty strong hormonal birth control for about 8 years. And just disclaimer, I have no issues with birth control. If people want to be on birth control, they absolutely should. Just explore non-hormonal options. Do what's best for your body. But for me, it was really hard on my body, and it created an environment in which sometimes I would be on my period for like a month. I would literally be having cycles for like a month to 2 months sometimes. And I was really disconnected and super inflamed and really bloated. And I just started to think about the ways that it didn't have to feel this way. Like it didn't have to feel this way to menstruate and to have that relationship with menstruation. And so I basically was like, this has to change. Like, this is a gap. Like, folks don't know about their hormonal health. They don't know about their womb wellness, like just the womb connection. And so we need to go further into this. And so I spent a lot of time meditating. I was like, okay, I understand how to help people from a health coaching perspective, but like, there's still a gap here. Like there's ways that we can partner. And I meditated on this for like months. And then I started putting myself in spaces energetically that were around more just women and creatives and like light workers and people doing this work. And I went to this beautiful event at Femme Fatale DC, which is this beautiful grassroots retail store off of Kinetic Avenue. And I met Empress Zilla at this lovely event where I also got this tattoo. By the way,
Which tattoo?
it's the 777.
Oh, beautiful. That's my favorite number.
Yeah, I was trying to bring in like a lot of like luck and abundance. But I met Zella and I immediately was enthralled by how her herbal blends made me feel so grounded. Like you could taste the intention behind it. You could taste the ways that the plant was basically respected and revered from the whole life cycle of the production. And so I was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is life changing. Like, this is the gap. Like, this is it. And so then I like meditated on it longer because I was so excited, but I wanted to like dig deeper into where I was feeling this excitement. And then once I understood, I reached out to Zella and I was like, hey, I've thought about this for a bit. I'm really into cycle syncing, but I want to take it one step further. I really honor what you do with plants, and I would love to come together to create a collection that can support folks through every phase of their cycle because I didn't find anything on it like that, like in the market at all. And it was a need. It was a need for me. It was a need for friends. It was a need for people in my life. And I'm so happy that I did because now we have a full tea collection and I would love for Zilla to share her perspective.
Yeah, and all of that. It was really fun because before we had connected, I was in the process of just kind of thinking about that. I had previously been interviewed on a different podcast about maternal health and women's wellness. And so I had created all of these resources about hormonal balancing and supporting and different herbs that support womb carriers through each cycle, like even through you know, um, pregnancy and like pre and post menopause as well. And so I'd already like created these resources and done this like podcast interview. And then it was like maybe a few months after that that you reached out and you were like, yeah, I really want to like do like a tea blend. And then I was like, wait, we should do all of them. Like, let's do 4 tea blends. Like, let's not just do one for balancing because there's so many different things that we need throughout different phases of our cycles. And so, yeah, it was really fun and really beautiful, just like birthing that and like bringing those pieces together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I want to add, because I'm just so excited about it, in our journey of marketing these teas, we've recognized that there's also a demand for like pre and post menopausal. So we do eventually see the collection upon like further research and development expanding to support all phases of the hormonal cycle, including pre and postpartum, and then eventually like pre and post menopausal. So that's something exciting. We're going to take our time doing it. So there is no timeline there, but we're just very excited to start learning more about this and be able to provide support within the hormonal health space.
Yeah. And even just to talk more about like what's in the teas, I know that we're going to go into like more detail. But all of the plants that we work with, like Taylor alluded to, so the plants are all like very loved and cared for. I mean, we work with local growers that are, you know, small farmers, small suppliers that really care about the process of the plants. They like love them, you know, it's like this is their livelihood, this is their like their heart joy, and like, it's like growing these plants and being really like discerning, because plants, you know, when they're grown in really good soil and when they're really taken care of and like loved, you can tell their medicine is that much stronger, and they're able to provide more support for us rather than just like, you know, the mass produced herbs that you could buy on like Amazon where you don't know where they came from or like what energy is
Makes a
associated
difference.
to it. It really makes a difference.
It really feels
Wow.
different in the brewing because at first, like when I tried your teas, I was like, what is the difference here? So I like compared it to a store-bought tea and it genuinely like feels so different energetically, and there's no other reason besides the intention from the
Yes.
beginning and the honor and reverence and love
Yeah.
of that plant medicine.
And there are so many studies about plants, you know, like when people, like when kids do their like science fair, you know, and they're like, I'm going to scream at this plant and be really angry and put it in a dark room. And then I'm going to like sing like sweet tunes and like say lovely things to this plant. And you can tell how like well the plant grows or how the plant does not grow well, you know?
Energy,
And
vibrations.
yeah, so I think a lot of people are kind of like understanding the deeper complexities of like what this world is like, because it's not just like, oh, it's just a plant. It's like, imagine if you were treated a certain way, like how would that influence your ability to like grow and feel good?
Yes.
And like that's what
Yes.
we're putting into our bodies.
Yeah.
Literally. The first time I tried the Womb Wellness Collection, I felt an energy jolt. I felt at the pre-launch party. The intention behind it, everything that you guys do, you can just feel the love and intention that's put into it. The products, the events, the dinners, so much intention and love, time, effort, joy, happiness, and you feel it. You feel it with the product. And so I kind of want to bring this all the way back, right?
I'm ready.
Because sometimes when we're in this space or when you're in the wellness space, we get so used to using certain terms that people don't know,
True.
especially when we're research based and things like that. It's like, wait, what happened? Um, what's the cycle? For people that aren't women, or even women that may not have the awareness of the different parts of the cycle. Um, I think that we should definitely break down
Yeah.
what are the different parts of our cycle, because when we think about our cycle, we just think about the menstruation phase, and which is when we're bleeding, when we have our period. And so people like, okay, that's the 1 week where we just have to worry about our hormonal changes or see a noticeable change. But we are going through this on a monthly,
Yeah.
and I think it's important for everyone to know so that we can work efficiently on a day-to-day basis. So, what
Yeah.
is it?
So I'll break down the four, and then I'm gonna have and Brazella go into the seasonal like dynamics of the four.
Okay.
She's phenomenal at that. But first, I want to preface this with, if you do not know that your womb cycle has four phases, that is okay. Like we were not taught about these things as openly in our sex education classes. I know I wasn't. And in the journey of selling the teas, we have had multiple conversation with even women in like their 40s and on that don't know that they have four phases. So if you do not know this, it is okay. There's not shame around this. But given that, so you have four actual phases of your cycle, not just menstruation, over the period of 28 to 30 days. So you have menstruation, followed by like your follicular phase, and then ovulation, and then luteal. So of those phases, they vary in size. Your luteal is going to be the longest portion of the month, and this is what people usually associate PMS symptoms with. That's actually during your luteal phase. Menstruation is obviously the physical, the bleed, the release. That's what we're most familiar with. That can range anywhere from 3 to 7 days, but the length of your cycle can tell you stuff, um, can tell you information about your body hormonally and how it's doing. Follicular and ovulation are going to be your more high energy portions of your hormonal cycle. So that's when your estrogen is at its highest and you feel like your body energetically has the biochemistry to support what you want to do, whereas you might feel um, more called to rest and honor rest and time communing with nature, whether that's just walks during luteal and menstruation. All later, I'll go more into some actual like biochemistry and the ways that different parts of your cycle can be used to maximize like creativity and flow and being in community. Before that, I would love to give Zella the opportunity to tell us the seasonal energetics of inner winter versus.
Yeah. So in your menstruation phase, that one is associated with your inner winter. So if you imagine, our hormonal cycles and the external world, as within, so without, everything mirrors everything. Everything is connected. So when we're bleeding, it's our sacred time of release. So that is related to the winter time. And what do you want to do in the winter time? You want to snuggle up, you want to rest, you want to eat like warm foods. You want to just like feel comfortable. And that's also, represented by the new moon. So like the darkness, the like deep introspective time. This is a time for yeah, just like deep thinking, introspection, having time alone. And then going into the follicular phase, that one will be spring. Spring comes right after winter. And so that's when like the flowers are budding. That's when you're getting that energy back. You want to do things, you want to be out in the world. That would be the waxing moon, like as it's growing, as the moon starts to grow in the sky, it's like your energy is growing, right? So it mirrors that dynamic as well. And all the things that you'd want to do in the spring, you want to like open your windows, you want to start like dancing, you want to start moving. It's like you can feel that call of summer coming, right? So it's like this budding excitement. It's like when you want to start like you making plans for summer, when you want to start doing things out in the world, being more social. And then ovulation, right? That's the inner summer. That's the full moon. That's when we have all of our energy. That's when like, that full moon energy is that of like excitement. It's that of like, creativity, that sensuality, that like wanting to be in relationship to people, wanting to like just that culmination point of all of our energy, right? They always say that like crazy things happen during full moon, right? Like people have all this energy, they
Yeah.
do all of these things, and you can really connect with each of these seasons and also moon phases, like as you're in it and like feeling like that deep connection to the world, to the natural cycles. So, and then, after our peak, after ovulation, then we go to luteal. And so luteal is that waning moon. It's when that starts to lower. So like that full moon from ovulation, the energy starts to recede slowly. And so that's the time when that's our inner autumn, right? That's when the leaves are starting to fall. Things are still really pretty, things are still really beautiful, but we are preparing for winter. We're preparing to go internal. And so honoring that flow and knowing like, oh, this is my time to like collect those last harvests, right? Like the last fruits of the season from your ovulation phase, and just prepare for that internal time, that downward time.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. That segues me into cycle syncing, but I didn't know if you had specific questions about cycle syncing.
Hmm.
Okay.
I have questions. So, yeah, so you mentioned cycle syncing,
Yes.
and you guys have developed a whole tea collection
Yes.
that coincides with cycle syncing. And so, what is that word? Because before you've said it, or many people might not have heard cycle syncing before. So, what does that look like, and how does it relate to your brand?
So, cycle syncing is basically the belief that in addition to our teas, you can also structure more your nutrition, your movement, your social habits, things within your professional space to balance with your womb cycle. Um, yeah, so basically, I bring kind of the health perspective of that and the nutrition side of understanding how eating different ways and folk eating different ways can be used during parts of your cycle to help your brain have increased focus or more cognition and the ways that your hormones relate to that. So we can go specifically into each cycle, or you can add
Yeah,
anything you feel about cycle syncing.
yeah, like when we just kind of talked about like society and how we are like working people now. And some years ago women weren't able to
Yeah.
have that right and things. And so as we are all moving and hustling and bustling, how do we weave cycle syncing into our daily lifestyle? Um,
Yeah. I will start first because I'm biased with my favorite part of your cycle, which is your follicular phase. This is right after your period, so you already feel the release. You have the release of your menstrual blood and anything else that your body needs to shed during that time. So you feel lighter, your estrogen starts to rise. And I want to go into the fact that estrogen doesn't just regulate reproductive behaviors, it also plays a big role in brain function, particularly areas like the hippocampus, which helps with memory, and your prefrontal cortex, which helps with decision making and planning. So within that, like because estrogen is peaking during your follicular phase, this hormone stimulates the estrogen receptors in the parts of your brain that are responsible for memory, focus, and problem solving. So you have an actual cognitive boost during this portion of your cycle because it increases estrogen, enhances synaptic activity, meaning that our brain cells communicate more efficiently, which improves cognition, and it also boosts energy metabolism in your neurons, which provides the brain with more fuel to function effectively. So, what this does for your mood is it promotes the release of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which enhance mood and motivation. This is often why people feel more confident and social and more like they can handle anything that comes their way during follicular phase. And then it also kind of prepares you to be able to do what you want to do before you're about to enter um, ovulation, which is another time of high energy. So that's
nice.
that's the energetics and kind of the biochemistry of why your follicular phase feels maybe easier than other parts of your phase and phases, and why that's happening.
That's my favorite part because and that's why when I first purchased the tea from the Womb Wellness Collection, that was the one that I was like
It's like your
interested in.
face.
First of all, it was good. It was just very tasty, and sweet, for to my taste. And there's a lot of different herbs that you guys incorporate within each phase of the tea that you created. Um, and so, like, what are some herbs that, well, yeah, um, and Priscilla, I think that I can center this question to you. Like, what type of plants support, and herbs support, um, a follicular phase?
Yeah. I'm actually gonna pull them up so I don't forget any of our
Yeah.
favorites because we've got a lot of really beautiful herbs in our collection, and I want to make sure to do them all justice.
Nice.
But yeah, so in our follicular blend, again, like all of these herbs in the blend are ones that I have a really deep connection with and that are very, just like grown with deep love and intention. And even in like our bringing together of all of these herbs, that deep love and intention. So first we have Vitex berries, which like that's a classic. Vitex is very much a classic for hormone balance, particularly around estrogen, along with red raspberry. So red raspberry is just like a really beautiful friend for all phases of our cycle, but like particularly for follicular as we're trying to like bring up like the nutrients in our bodies as well and like continue to make sure the estrogen, is flushed out of our bodies. Um, and so we've got nettle also to like bring a lot of those nutrients back in. And blueberries for some of those like antioxidants. Also nettle has a lot of iron, which we lose while we bleed. So really just like that mineralizing tonic for our systems. We've got blueberries for all of those antioxidants and that sweetness, along with marjoram for like that sweetness. Um, and also for that mood boosting as well to help as you're embracing this inner spring to just like kind of continue to like boost you up and help after that like lower energetic period of menstruation.
Heck
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah, there was one more, Damiana. So Damiana, I can't see. This is why I needed the list because I don't want to forget. Because like Damiana is like the life of the party. Like she is the one who's like bringing us into our ovulation phase. She is definitely a really beautiful reproductive tonic and like strengthener. So I mean, in traditional Chinese medicine, they use Damiana as kind of like what do they call those? Like the ones that like boost your like sexual energy, like a libido booster,
Yeah.
because she provides that like energy to the body. She like really just like anything that is targeted as like something that boosts libido really just like increases energy flow in your body, like
Mhm.
allows you to have more access to that flow. So she's very fun and helps you to kind of expand into that inner springtime.
Ugh, I love. That brings me into my second portion, which is ovulation.
Okay.
And Zella talked about it a little bit, but during ovulation, you have boosted both creativity and sociability. Part of this is because you do have a slight increase of testosterone during ovulation, which boosts confidence, risk taking, and motivation. These hormonal surges enhance divergent thinking, so like brainstorming, and convergent thinking, so like problem solving. Um, for your emotional and social energy, high estrogen levels during ovulation improve mood, they increase arousal, and they enhance verbal fluency. So, this makes ovulation an ideal time to schedule like networking or like public facing events or like anytime you feel like you're going to be perceived. For example, I'm ovulating right now, and I did try to schedule this around my ovulation based on
You know. Always
will
good for
literally schedule like events with friends, like based on when I'm in follicular or ovulation. I literally will. I'll look ahead on the calendar and be like, "Could we do this here?"
right. No, literally. Literally.
That's okay. So now going into that, I would love Zella to talk about our plant partners within our ovulation blend.
Yeah. So again, with that like sunshiny summer energy. So we've got calendula, who is going to really help us. And this is funny because like usually when we're ovulating, right, we feel more social. We want to be out in the world. And calendula is a very solar herb, but she's also an immune booster, right? Because like you're gonna be real germy out there in the world, hanging out with all those people. So like calendula helps us to keep our immune system really strong and to also cultivate that inner fire, that like solar plexus energy, help us like help us to be like steady in that energy flow, so it's not just like a quick flame, so that it's really sustained. We have nettle. Again, nettle is in like all of our blends because nettle is super nourishing, and like always throughout our cycle, we need lots of minerals and nutrients, so really just like that rich plant. Then we have dandelion. Dandelion is also going to be a detoxifier, a blood cleanser. So like this is a great time just to like make sure that everything is clearing out of your system hormonally and that you're in right flow. Because taking care of these other phases in your cycle and making sure that the hormones are able to be flushed from your body and like come in and like that, keeping that flow going makes it so that when you go into like your luteal phase or your menstruation phase, that you're not having as much trouble, like actually caring about your hormonal balance throughout the other phases when you're not as like worried or like having these like adverse symptoms prepares you for those other phases. So we have dandelion to kind of prepare for the luteal phase. And then we've got rose, to keep that heart open while you're out in the world. Rose is also a really beautiful womb support too, and like a womb tonic. We've got motherwort, who is like amazing for bringing just like that zen. So sometimes we can get a little anxious during our ovulation phase, right? Like all of that energy flowing in can be a lot. So like this keeps us kind of balanced with all of that. Motherwort is a nervous system soother. She doesn't make us sleepy, but she like brings us to like an even keel. And then we've got um, ashwagandha, which is another adaptogen. So adaptogens help us to adapt to stress no matter what that looks like. So if we're like too high up, we're too anxious, and like we're moving all over the place and we feel really scattered, ashwagandha brings us down to this like balanced place. If we're feeling like low, a little sluggish, a little tired, like a little sad, ashwagandha brings us up. So it's really just like working, all of these plant allies work really well just with understanding where we are in our bodies and where more balance can be brought in.
I love ashwagandha. That's just
Yeah,
a
I
whole
include that in
other.
everything.
Yeah, I take L-theanine and ashwagandha every day. Now we're going to go into personally, this is one of the hardest phases for me, but I'm trying to reframe how I feel about it. So we're going to go into the luteal phase. This is the longest part of your cycle. Your progesterone levels rise at this time. So this can actually help with focus. So whereas follicular and ovulation, you're doing more kind of like action oriented, super energizing things that are like more go, go, go than the rest of your cycle. Luteal time is a time to spend more time with yourself, spend time creating and focusing, but at a more like kind of lower energetic space. But it actually enhances focus by reducing stress and promoting calmness through its interaction with your GABA receptors in your brain. So, for practical insights, we can recognize that the luteal phase is a time when the progesterone effects promote reflection and calmness and can help you align with tasks such as like focusing on detailed grounded work versus high energy projects, or like you can be more mindful of your mood fluctuations during this time because you don't have as much energetics as you did when your estrogen was super high the last two phases. So really showing yourself grace and honoring that need to rest, and also recognizing that you might not feel as called to be around as many people. Maybe during this time your community is more inward, or it's just smaller to people that you don't feel like you have to be as high energetically around. But again, everybody's luteal is different to them. I just personally have a really hard luteal phase, and I'm so grateful that we have had the teas because it's probably put my stress and overall discomfort in my luteal from like an 8 out of 10 to like a 3 out of 10. So that's the power of the teas. So let's get into it.
Yes.
Yeah. So luteal, I actually, I think luteal has a bad rap, like Taylor said. Like, it's a really good time to just sit in and to like focus and, tune in with your body. And so, we've got hibiscus in the luteal blend. Hibiscus is rich in vitamin C and also helps to encourage that blood flow. So often our luteal is the longest phase in our cycle, and we want, to make sure that our blood flow for menstruation can come easily and smoothly, and it isn't like a painful beginning to your cycle, which it can often be for some people. So, like, the hibiscus kind of like thins the lines of the uterus a little bit, just like encouraging a gentle beginning to that blood flow. And then we've got lavender, which lavender is such a beautiful ally for just remembering peace and like calmness and allowing us to remember that like things don't have to be hard, like it's okay, like calming the nervous system, instantly just bringing us down into that place of just like relaxation and rest. um and also, some people don't know this, like, lavender actually can be a sedative. Like, lavender can be really strong. And it was actually, this is like a funny story, when I was like tinkering in the beginning with like the tea blends. I was like, oh yeah, so much lavender, with like my co-lead. And we're like, yeah, so much lavender. And then we tried the teas and we're like, oh no, not that much
Too much
lavender.
lavender.
Too much lavender, like it can
You sleep
really like
somewhere.
put you to bed, like you don't really think that lavender is that strong of a medicine, but she can do a lot. And then so we also have burdock for the same kind of detoxing. So burdock is a blood cleanser, like a deep like detox purifier in the body. So we really want to help in that release and having that smooth release. So burdock helps our body to like naturally remove some of those toxins. So burdock is a diuretic. This particular tea might make you pee a good bit, but it's like preparing your body, right? So that when you're ready to release in menstruation, it's not as challenging. Like your body doesn't have to like push forth as much effort to do that release and that detox. Okay, the other allies in our luteal blend are mugwort. And mugwort is like absolutely my favorite because mugwort really helps with like the PMS symptoms. Like all of the symptoms of like that womb pain, for sure. Mugwort is like a very watery, misty energy, so like kind of helps just like soften and like moisten like our joints, our muscles, and like soothing. And like mugwort is also very dreamy medicine, so helps us in our luteal phase like clear the mind fog in such a way that like we're able to like really tune into the power of our womb so that we can dream and like create like whatever we want to create. Because in our inner winter, right, like this is our inner autumn, right, when we're starting to prepare for that internal time. So we have to like think about what we want to do, what we want to learn, what we want to create in like the spring and the summer, right? And so this is kind of preparing. It's that energy of like creativity and like dreaming and being like dreamy and flowy and fun. So kind of helps with those energies of like frustration or anger or like those things that can come up during the luteal phase, and helps us to settle more into like, okay, well, what's the power here? Like, what am I creating? So I really love mugwort. Mugwort is definitely one that like I drink a lot in my luteal phase. And then like this whole blend kind of encompasses all of those aspects. And then the last one will be lemon balm. And so lemon balm is known as like lemon balm is so gentle, like she's known as like child's medicine. Like this is a plant that like children can work with for like anxiety, for like restless minds, thoughts, muscle tension, even. And so lemon balm kind of brings that like childlike joy back in, which is like sometimes hard to reach when we're in our luteal phase. So calms the nervous system, brings a lot of flow, and also helps us to remember that like childlike joy too.
That's so beautiful. I love our luteal blend.
Yes.
Next, into the menstrual phase. So if you're following the whole cycle of what we've been over, you understand that this whole thing has basically been preparing you for menstruation. Like the whole process, all of the hormones going up and down. This is all your womb, and those with wombs basically like preparing for your bleed, for that release. So by the time you menstruate, it genuinely feels like a release, and the tension that you were feeling during luteal is released in your body as well. So, from a hormonal level, estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest during menstruation, which can cause fatigue and generally you called to have like deep rest. There was actually a research study published in the NIH that found evidence that you actually need more sleep during your menstruation phase than other parts of your cycle. So they were actually able to do like sleep studies and map out the impacts of your energetic levels based on where you were at in your cycle. And they found that you do actually need more sleep. So not only is your body calling for that, but biochemically, you need extra sleep to support your body in doing what it's doing. Think about the fact that your organ system is literally cleansing itself from the inside, and think about the energetics of that and how much resources your body is taking from other systems to help support that process. And really understanding and conceptualizing that can really help you know the level of support and medicines or nutrition or just more like connection and support that you might need during that time, and to really honor it because your body is doing a lot of hard work for you.
Yeah. And you don't even realize it. It's just all going on within.
Yes.
Yeah. And so our herbal friends that are in this blend are here to make this process as seamless and smooth as possible. So the first one that we have in this blend is white willow bark. And white willow is actually where aspirin comes from, like fun fact. People in the West, people looked at the indigenous traditions of using white willow bark and they said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to like extract this one element of this white willow bark and concentrate it super hard and make it into aspirin." And that's where aspirin comes from. But really, white willow bark, like as a whole medicine without like being extracted, when you take a lot of aspirin, you have these symptoms like, like it can cause like acid reflux or like heart issues, or like, if you take aspirin too long, it can like burn holes in your stomach lining and like have gastrointestinal issues for you. And so it's funny because like the actual white willow bark mitigates all of those effects. Like those side effects don't happen when you're working with the bark itself. And actually the way that it works, aspirin kind of has this like peak where it works for you for a while and then it immediately drops off. Whereas white willow bark is more of like smooth, like it keeps working for a long period of time, like it works with your body. And so white willow bark is going to help us with all of the pain, throughout like moving this energy, cleansing our wombs. It's going to help release that muscle tension and reduce the pain. We've got vitex berries in there again as well to help us stay balanced as our hormone levels are dropping and kind of keep it from being a sharp like decline so that you can still feel balanced even as you're changing. And just kind of think about it as like different levels of equilibrium, and you just like having a smooth staircase down rather than just like going down a slide, So then we've also got chamomile because sometimes we have stomach upset, we'll get like feel nauseated. Chamomile is really beautiful for any sort of gastrointestinal issues, and also just like nervous system support and like that calming will like ease the cramps that you feel in your womb as well. We've got red clover, which again is going to be that hormonal balancer to help us as we're going on these new levels of like reaching equilibrium to kind of smooth that out. Red clover is really beautiful for balancing the estrogen, and like estrogen spikes and troughs are usually what leads to a lot of our PMS symptoms. And so then we've got maca. So maca is gonna like bring that energy back in. Maca is also like a reproductive tonic, a reproductive energy booster, so that's gonna help us to feel more activated during this time. Even though we might feel super sleepy, we obviously need more sleep, but will kind of help us maintain higher energy levels than we might typically have during that part of the cycle. Because in a lot of Asian countries, like maca is a food. Like you work with maca all the time. And so it's just like helping us keep that energy level up high. And then we've got nettle. So again, we're losing a lot of iron and a lot of nutrients as we are bleeding. So nettle is going to replenish that in our systems. And then we have jasmine, which is a really beautiful womb support and like mood booster as well. Yeah. Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So many great um, herbs, plant medicine infused in these teas in the Womb Wellness Collection. And so thank you for sharing and creating this brand and tea collection. And so I kind of want to point out how a lot of women, um, I'm noticing, especially folks that have used birth control within the last 10 years, are developing a lot more hormonal imbalances, even with the nutrition that is being fed to us out there. And so hormonal imbalances shows up as PCOS, endometriosis, PMS symptoms. PCOS is something that's really been growing and I've been hearing a lot more about. And I'm even someone that is overcoming PCOS. So PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so we can talk more about that. How does um, plant medicine um, serve energetically and like spiritually for your womb healing? Because I truly believe that PCOS and a lot of these symptoms are not just physical. It's like a manifestation of spiritual healing that needs to take place. So how does plant medicine um, help with that?
It's a really, really good question. So there are a lot of root causes as to why PCOS happens. Um, and a lot of it has to do around like the wounded feminine, uncomfortableness with the feminine energy, especially. And I think it's, increasing a lot in our society right now because of how hyper masculine our society is and how that is the baseline for interacting. So, like, approaching the world in a highly feminine way, a very heart-led, intuitive way, is actually pretty demonized in our society. And so it leads to a subduing of that feminine energy and thinking that people that hold predominant feminine energy in their field, womb carriers, have to move in the world in a hyper masculine way, and so it's suppressing those feminine aspects. And so what that leads to is a suppression of the voice, and kind of just like holding things in. So imagine like you're suppressing something. It's like you're putting it in a jar, right? And so if we're suppressing our feminine aspects, then our wombs don't feel safe to release because it's like, oh, there's no safety here. I've got to be masculine. And often that is passed down, it's the society that we're in, and it's also our relationship with our mother's lines, like our mothers and then the ancestral line of women in our family. And that is stored a lot in the body. It's stored a lot in the hips, in that area. So if we have like tight hips, and it's stored a lot in the womb. And so it has to do with our ability to receive without thinking that we have to do something to earn that. It has to do with our worthiness, and it has to do with our comfortableness of speaking our truth and our voice, because of all of that suppression. And so herbs do help with this. But again, I work from the body, mind, spirit level. So like all of these things, when they manifest into a physical imbalance, it is my deep understanding and knowing that it starts from an energetic place. It starts from something that's happening outside in your field, something that you see, something that you witness, growing up, childhood, all of those things. And then it gets denser when you start to create a thought or an opinion around it. You're like, I am this is this, I have to do this. And then as that thought solidifies and you think that that thought is who you are, then it manifests in the physical and it becomes a physical imbalance in the body. And so the herbs, like all of our plant allies, can help us to illuminate that. They help us as they serve as a mirror for particular healing. So depending on where the imbalance is first, like the most predominant issue, like violet, for example. Violet helps us when we're really critical of ourselves, when we're really rigid on this idea of like who we are versus someone else, and like we're not able to be in right flow with life. We're just like holding on so tightly to things. So violet helps us to release. And then once we have that release and we like smooth the frustration, we're not so attached to like who we think we are and who other people think we are, then we're able to see things a bit more clearly and maybe go a little deeper. Maybe it's actually like, oh, I have this like mothering and belonging wound. So then we can bring in motherwort, because motherwort, her name stands for lion-hearted. Like she's literally here to help us work through issues on our mother's line and where we feel like we don't belong, and help us to work through that and feel our own sense of belonging and our own sense of safety in our bodies. So then working with motherwort and connecting with her really closely, soothing that nervous system, feeling that power of keeping our hearts open, and then it's like it goes further and further as you start to understand deeper and deeper what this imbalance is. But the plants are only here to mirror specific aspects. So it has to be like, it's always deeper work. It's never just about the symptom, and that's how plant medicine differs from like Western medicine. I come from a Western science background too, but it's my work is very much more and much deeply rooted in ancestral wisdom and the wisdom of the earth and what the plants teach me. And so Western medicine says, oh, you have a headache, here's aspirin. Plant medicine is like, okay, what is the nature of that headache? Is it a lot of pressure? Like, where do you feel it first? What happens in the rest of your body when you get this headache? What's happening in the world? What thoughts are you thinking? And just getting so much deeper to get to like the root cause of the thing. And I think that in the West, we often, because of the systems that we have, we think symptom, like solution, symptom, solution, but they're band-aids and we're band-aiding a dam, and that's why a lot of these more chronic illnesses are developing, like PCOS, like autoimmune diseases, like high blood pressure, because we're trying to put band-aids on a dam,
Yeah. I wanted to share because it came up for me when you were sharing that. You mentioned autoimmune issues. I've been reading studies within public health because my focus is maternal and child health, but there's a lot more autoimmune disease showing up within women and womb holders. And so my first thought as you were describing kind of the root energetics of that, to me it feels like repressed anger or rage,
yes,
or like
100%.
unmet like needs. And so when that stays energetically in the body, it
Becomes
makes
toxic.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense that it's manifesting more in like autoimmune issues, because basically your body is like, you're not communicating your needs like outwardly. So I'm going to basically within your immune system kind of show you that you're not doing that. And I'm not saying, there's obviously other elements to this and like things that contribute to autoimmune diseases, absolutely. But I think if you follow the root of that, that is related to repressed like anger or like expression.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that something that I've personally been working on is reframing my relationship with like anger and expressing anger, or at least following the root of where it comes from, because I grew up in a family that didn't really honor anger as an emotion that womb holders could really like express or have. It was seen as a not okay emotion. And I think that a lot of women and womb holders can stray away from expressing or at least being curious about their anger and where that comes from. And I think it's so beautiful the way that you described it as the plants are here to help us, but they are simply a mirror
Mhm.
reflecting deeper root issues that we ourselves need to really understand energetically in our body and feel in our body what that looks and feels like. Because there is a difference between headaches that are like a congestion based headache versus like a pressure or
Mhm.
like a
Yeah.
stress headache.
Mhm.
Like all of these headaches feel differently in the body.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
think it's helping folks understand that if they reconnect into their energetic body, our bodies tell us exactly what it's feeling, exactly what it needs. And even when you have more of a depth of understanding of plant medicine, even down to what plants it needs.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for helping me because this is a personal journey that I'm even navigating, and a lot of other folks around me that have PCOS, fibroids, cysts.
Mm.
Um, I truly believe what you say. It really um, is a manifestation of the repression of emotions, the closing of your throat chakra. Um, and so you just made me even realize some things within myself, and just even the generational line of what's been passed down from my ancestors. I've noticed a lot within my familial line that have a lot of these issues, a lot of these womb health um, issues. And so, yeah, something to really think about. It's a lot of work to be done outside of just plants, outside of medicine, but just even just the mindfulness and self work to do,
Mhm.
self healing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that brings in my last question
Yes.
of this podcast. How do you relate womb healing to self, and why is it important? But then also, how can you relate that to community healing?
This is like there's multiple levels to this. So let me start with at the womb. So at the womb, something to understand is that you already existed within like your mother's egg. When she
Yeah.
was the egg within your grandmother's womb, you were already within that. So the
Yes.
energetics of that means that you literally feel and are processing things that your grandma went through, things that your mom went through, because you already existed as like an
Yeah.
energetic being within
Literally.
that. So within womb health, womb wellness, it's not just like an individual thing. Like you are carrying and processing experiences that existed before you within your familial line, and that can manifest too. So that's, I think, like first fold, you're already bringing in other like energetic experiences in that space. And then within womb healing itself, our relationship to womb and our comfort within stepping into kind of our power space, our sacred space, allows us to show up more authentically in the ways that we like to, and to feel more embodied and feel more connected to the feminine flow, the creative that Empress Zella mentioned. Like it helps us feel more embodied within that, because we live in a society that consistently disembodies womb holders on purpose because um, because of the systems that be and people that want to subjugate others. Like it's a very intentional practice of disembodiment. So it's my lived experience that working on becoming embodied has been so connected to connecting to my womb and understanding my womb and the energetics of it and the things that I had to process. And then to bring that into collective and community healing, and Empress Zella will get much more into this, but basically, if you are wanting to serve others and serve your community, you can't do that from an empty cup. You have to first start by understanding, like, what are the ways I need to pour into myself right now? What are the ways that I need to work through my own, issues or lived experiences that I'm bringing into this, so that way I don't like project onto others or project my preferences onto others as I'm serving community. So that way, once you've healed that energetically and you feel grounded within yourself, then you can go into these community spaces, be connected to that core knowing, that embodiment, and you can serve from a space of genuine intention, because you're
Mhm.
grounded enough and you've worked through these things so that way you can come into spaces and like listen and like be present and understand within your root like what it is that you can give to others and serve others with. And then lastly, our relationship with self and womb mirrors our relationship with how we honor Mother Earth, Mother Gaia. So the ways that we're treating, like Zella mentioned it briefly, we're in kind of a wounded masculine era right now, and you can see the way that manifests into our current lived reality. But the way that we treat ourselves mirrors how we're kind of treating the earth right now.
Yeah.
And so we have to use that understanding that the kind of the cyclical living of your womb following the cycles and the rebirth and the transformation and the loss, we have to bring that back into the energetic space of the collective and understand that these systems can be regenerative and they can work with reverence and honor to the resources that the earth provides for us. It doesn't have to be a relationship that is so focused on taking and extracting without an honor and reverence and replenishing of those resources. So that was like a really long-winded answer, but that's my kind of TLDR of the relationship
Yes.
between womb self and the energetics of that and how that can manifest into community and collective healing.
Nice. Thank you for that, Queen. And you guys mentioned community, and the Tea on Wellness is a community. That is what we're building right now. We building a community where we can have these conversations, where we can continue building and learn, becoming more aware of different aspects of wellness. And so this is probably the first time a lot of folks have heard about cycle syncing, about hormonal imbalances, the womb, and how plant medicine is intersecting with it, and just doing the work, whether that is therapy, working through whatever ideas you're having. So I say all of that to say, how can people find you guys in community? You guys are doing a lot of events, dinner parties, things
Yeah.
like that. How can people find you on Instagram? Things like that.
I'll let Zella go first. She probably might have something to add on the energetics too.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think you did a wonderful
Oh,
job with the energetics.
perfect.
Yeah, like that feels good to me. It felt really complete. Yeah, like I agree with everything that you shared. Um, yeah, and I guess for my socials, I'm on Instagram. So Netaru Apothecary. So N as in Nancy, Teereu. I think. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes.
it's hard for me to spell in my head. Yeah, Netaru Apothecary on Instagram, netaruapothecary.com. Um, my personal Instagram is a.virosa, which is a mushroom because I'm a plant person.
Yes.
And yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so I have my personal Instagram, which is just at Taylor Ann, but Taylor is spelled uniquely, so TaelyRann. We do have a page just for the Womb Wellness Collection. The title literally is just at Womb Wellness Collection. All of our websites are linked in both of our profiles, but if you heard anything about cycle syncing today that interested you and you want to dig deeper, that is indeed my focus. So feel free to reach out if you have any more questions about cycle syncing, hormonal health, and like nutrition related to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, yeah, feel free to reach out if you want to learn anything more about plants, plant medicine. I do herbal consultations where we really dive deep into the root of different physical imbalances, from that body, mind, spirit perspective. I'm also on the shamanic path, as I said, and I do spiritual mentorship, plant spirit medicine ceremonies, custom ceremonial work, along with all of the other like herbs and plant medicines that I make in partnership with plant spirits in the apothecary as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out to connect with any questions.
Woohoo.
All right, so you can find me, your host, Samantha Desenord, on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Sam Desenord, Decenord, and our brand on Instagram is The Tea on Wellness. So look forward to more podcasts, more intentional curated events, and more. So I also have an announcement. So can I get a drum roll? Like, oh, I love that we was in sync with that. That was cute. Okay, so going forward, the Tea on Wellness has been sponsored by the Womb Wellness Collection. And so every episode we will have the tea being featured. So I'll be drinking some ovulation phase tea, follicular phase, menstruation phase tea, the whole nine is going to be sponsored for each episode. So thank you so much for sponsoring my podcast, for helping me get started. And I'm just so grateful for you, queens. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
I love
Yes,
y'all.
I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in to the first. Hold on, the first. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Tea on Wellness. So, peace.
Bye.